Welcome to the Crossing Church. This is the version of the Crossing that goes where you go and delivers what you need. Fresh perspectives on faith and Jesus with practical, real-life next steps built in. This is your place to explore faith and experience the life-changing ways of Jesus.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. So this is the Crossings online service, but we're doing things a little bit differently today. We're having more of a podcast conversation style moment where we get to talk about the series that we're in. So we're in a series called Treasure Map. It's all about finding and keeping love in your life. My name is Nicole Romero. I get to be one of the pastors here at The Crossing, and I get to have a conversation with some of my really good friends who are also on staff here. So I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves and maybe give us just a little bit of info about how you would describe your relationship status. You go first.
Cool. I'm RJ. I am the student pastor here at The Crossing. I've been fairly single, and then about 2 years ago, I met Arissa, and we've been dating ever since. So officially, probably about a year and a half, but we've known each other for 2 years now.
Awesome. I love the official part. Okay.
Right?
I am Carol. I am the creative arts pastor in the Crossing in Español, and I am married to this guy right here.
Hey.
And I'm Steve Sandoval. I am the pastor of the Crossing in Español, and it's my wife Carol, and we've been married for going on 5 years, 4.5 years more or less, something like that.
Awesome. Fun fact, they met here at The Crossing.
Yeah.
Yep. And I have been married to my husband, Jared, for 23 years. It is awesome and a miracle. We met in high school, and we have I feel like we've lucked out at both being willing to keep trying and know each other over the years. You change so much as time goes on. And in Treasure Map, our first topic is called creating a love map. And a love map is really just like, what's the terrain of knowing each other? What's the environment inside that person you're trying to love? And what's it like inside your head? So what was your childhood like? What do you love and hate right now? What are things like your love language? What even expresses love to you? And just for me, I think on that topic, and then I'd love to hear each of you talk about, like, how do you keep getting to know someone, or how do you get to know someone for the first time really well and know that they're the person? For us, it was this sense of like, I want to never stop getting to know you. Like, you are infinitely interesting. It's like I never want to stop exploring faith. I want to never stop getting to know who God is. I want to never stop getting to know who my husband is on any given day. I brought a prop because, so this book right here, this book we have kept in the car with us for at least 20 years. It's a silly book. It's called All About Me. It's just got like questions in it about yourself.
Sounds selfish.
Yeah. Oh, it does sound selfish. All about me. Except that we use it to not be selfish. So we use it when I don't know, we're both sometimes introverted, or both sometimes tired, and it's just like, I don't even know how to make conversation. And so we use that book, especially on road trips or things like that, where we're like,
Yeah, that's creative.
you want to just go through this book and like ask each other questions like, what's your favorite whatever, or why do you choose the friends you choose, or tell me more about your childhood. And even if we went through it a year ago, the answers are slightly different every time we do it. Mm-hmm. And it's just cultivating that sense of curiosity and who are you today and how is God working in your life, and never getting bored of the person that you're with. I think that can really end things when you just start to feel like, oh, I know you. Like, I know your habits. I know your patterns. I know who you are. That's like the end. That like kills romance. Romance has like a curiosity about it. So I don't know. That's my like initial thoughts on it. How about you, RJ? When you're getting to like know a person for the first time and you're a year and a half in, how do you get to know each other?
Yeah, so I am not a pro at this by any means. Arissa's probably the better one of the two of us between asking questions and stuff like that. Since for her, she's a therapist, but she does 2 games with her clients, and we do those 2 games.
So she does 2 games
You're
with her
a client?
clients that she also does
so
with you?
I'm
So
now her
yeah.
extra client, her 37th or whatever client that she has.
Awesome.
So the
For
one,
free.
or yeah, right, exactly. And so for me, the game that we play is called Ungame. So there's like different categories and different like places of what you could do it as. And so basically the one we do is the relationship one. And on one side of the card, they're just cards that you just basically grab. One card is like a light question, like, hey, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite movie? And then the other side of the question is more like a deeper question, like, what gets you angry, or how do you handle conflict? So I live in Orange County. Arissa lives in Covina, which is pretty much Canada as far as the commute is concerned. So when we are driving, going to places, like we'll play that game. And so we'll try to play that game probably like every weekend. We'll try to do that. We end up playing it like every other week or every 3 weeks or so. So that's the first thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the second one, she probably doesn't do this with her clients because this is like more of a relationship one.
Hopefully.
Yeah, in hindsight, hopefully not, right? Is called Agape. So it's AGAPE with an accent mark. It's an app. Pretty much functions the same way, but it's more like on a relationship bent. So each day you get a question and your partner answers the question, but you don't get to see their answer until you answer the question. So
That's cool.
I haven't
That's really
beaten
cool.
Arissa to the question yet. So
Oh,
I
really?
always
She
get the
always
blurt.
answers first?
She always does. So and I'm like 2 days behind, but
boy.
right?
Hurry up,
but
do
I
you
always
need to
catch
go
up.
and like do that right now?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll do it afterwards. I'll answer like 2 and then I'll do the bonus one. I'm like, hey, I'm ahead 1. So same thing. It's just kind of like Ungame where some of the questions are fun, like favorite things. And then like another one that I think I got yesterday was like, hey, if you can have an assistant, like what would your assistant be? And then it gets deeper questions like talk about your childhood or how would you describe your childhood? So things like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I heard someone talking about a game that was like, if you knew me, you would know blank.
Right.
And you start out like simple. If you knew me, you would know I love mint chip ice cream. Or like if you knew me, you would know I had surgery when I was 11. Like you like get deeper and deeper as you go. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Agape. I'm going to look that up.
There you go.
Yeah, well, we're gonna one up you. We've created an app. I'm just kidding.
I was like, no, you haven't.
No, yeah, not.
No. I think for us, it's evolved a lot because, in the dating season of our lives, it was different, and then getting married, that was a different season of how we got to know each other. We traveled a lot. Actually, we intentionally decided not to have kids right away so that we could get to know each other, spend time together, and really enjoy that new season of life. After that, we had kids. We have kids. We have 2 little kids, and so the way we get to know each other is very different now than
Way different.
Yeah, we don't get to travel as much now. We have to do dates, like
Intentional
day
date
dates,
nights, yeah.
or now nights because we finally found someone to help
Or day
in the
dates too.
evenings.
that's
But
true.
yeah, usually we
Any kind of
We-
date. Just
yeah.
any date.
Anytime that we could just be
3
alone.
p.m. date.
Just, yeah,
yeah,
no,
so
for
it's
real.
usually
Yeah, for
lunch
real.
dates. Yeah, so that's how it's evolved a little bit now to how to get to know each other in this new season of our lives.
Yeah, and I I think the one thing that's really cool is like you said it, right? Like Alyssa's better than you. Or Arissa, sorry. Is it?
Arissa.
Arissa,
Yeah.
that's right. So she's
Hi,
like,
Arissa.
I was like, Irissa, no? Arissa's better than you. But it's a guy thing though. I feel like most guys don't tend to go like that honest and deep as far as like
Yeah.
getting to that point. And Carol does. Like she'll just create like questions and stuff and sometimes like I'm like, oh, we're gonna talk. Okay, cool. Like I didn't realize we were
For
talking.
reals,
yeah,
yeah.
right. I thought it was
Yeah.
just like a quiet ride or whatever. I thought it was just quiet time, but we're gonna talk. And I don't like
It's
necessarily.
never quiet
yeah,
time.
but I don't necessarily respond that way. But I do. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We're gonna do this. In my head, I'm like, all right, cool. But yeah, no, she did this. She did the same thing you did. I mean, but it's not all about her. It's all about us. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Where she asked, where we were on our way, a trip to farther than Canada, actually, I think
Bakersfield.
Bakersfield.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes.
That is far.
Yeah,
That's
and
far.
it was a 3-hour drive almost. So she just started. I don't know what you used, but you started asking
Pinterest.
her-
I just looked up questions to ask your partner.
There you go. So I guess there you go. So you don't even need an app. You can just go on Pinterest, apparently.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of cool because I don't think she'd ever done that with me. And some of the questions were, I don't want to say dumb, but at the same time, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, this is interesting enough. So it's cool. I guess my thought is, that, yeah, you do want to continue to learn and experience and find out, who your partner is. And a dumb question she asked me was like, what is something you've purchased that you regret? And the funny thing is I've never shared that with her, but I have something. I had something like,
Yeah.
oh, hands down, I can tell you what it is because it is such a very vivid memory of something that I purchased that I completely regret it. And I told her what it was. It was dumb. It was a leather jacket. If you guys want to know,
I did. I really did want to know.
I was curious.
It was a leather jacket. It was such a dumb thing to do. I wanted to be the Fonz. No, I did not want to be the Fonz. I kid. I
Hispanic fun.
yeah, El Fonz. But no, it was just a leather jacket that I thought it was cool and I wanted to buy it. It was way out of my budget, and that just basically snowballed into everything else. So that's all it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it is funny, right? It doesn't have to be deep questions. It can be
Exactly.
anything. Yeah. And then it just starts a conversation and lets you keep talking about it. It's not like you need to stick to some rigid, like, only answer this question. It's just making space to ask questions. But as you were talking, it made me think it's true that oftentimes women can be more verbal than guys, and getting to know each other isn't just verbal, right? Like, yes, you can jump to the, like, now we're talking about sex, but I don't even mean that. I mean, like, you can go play a game together. You can go to an escape room. You can go, like, and you get to know how each other thinks and what you like doing for fun. Like, do you like going for a hike? Do you like going swimming? Like, we're whole beings, and it's easy for us to think that getting to know each other in a relationship is just verbal, but it's not. It's like, what do you enjoy in every way? And how can I get to know the whole of you? What kind of food makes you sick? What kind of food do you love? Like, those things are important. And it helps you love each other when you then act on the things that you know about each other. So it's not just like, I know these things, but now I'm actually using that information to show you that I love you. So I think about, like, my husband, he works from home, so often he'll be in work mode still when I get home. And I was like, can you just look up at me and smile when I get home, even though you're in, like, super work mode? And I can see him, like, make the decision because I'll be working, and then he's like, wait. And I'm like, thank you. I love you so much. I so appreciate that. Okay, go back to work. I know you still have stuff to do, right? And just that, like.
But that's a love language thing, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely a love language thing. Because there's this, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
there is this weirdness where you just need that, acknowledgement or that a word of affirmation. And it's not necessarily a word of affirmation, but it's just affirming that you're there, that, like, hey, I'm home. And
Yeah, I exist.
I'm here, and I
Hey.
exist.
Yeah.
And you're happy to see me. Okay.
I 100% like, I'm like, oh yeah, I can relate to that, because I have those moments. I'm like, can you stop, or like, what are you doing? And she's full on work mode. But I also now know that, well, Carol, being an Enneagram 3, I don't know if anyone knows what an Enneagram 3 is, but she's always working. Even when she's not working, her mind is working.
Yeah.
So I have to also remind myself, it's the work time. So I just kind of move on.
Yeah, I think the more we can accept each other's weirdnesses as opportunities to love each other versus, like, a thing that isn't like me and so now I don't like it. Of, like, yeah, that's a weird thing about you. Perfect. That's exactly where I get to show you how much I love you. Like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Like, and, like, so, Carol's in work mode and she doesn't want to stop that. Like, how can I support that? But then how can she also make sure that she, like, shows you how you actually receive love? Like, we have this wonderful problem where, like, acts of service really mean a lot to my husband. So when I clean, that really means a lot to him. But when I clean, I get angrier and angrier as I clean. I really hate cleaning. I'm sorry, but I do. And so I have to figure out, like, how do I clean and show him love without me getting all disgruntled about cleaning? He cleans way more than me, by the way, it's like the smallest amount that I'm being asked to do. So, but, like, how can it matters to him. And so how can I do it out of real love rather than, like, oh, I hate doing this, and just seeing it as an opportunity to love him has really helped me. And same with him, like, stopping what he's doing to say hi to me, of, like, no, this is actually finding those moments of, like, disproportionate, like, I don't know, ROI of, like, the return on investment for this 5 seconds. If I do this thing for this 5 seconds, man, that's going to last for hours. Yeah. Finding those has been, like, a major key for us, because you get busier, things happen, your job gets busier, you have little kids, like, knowing those little things that it'll take me literally 1 minute to do this, and it will last for a day of gratitude for them, and then actually just doing those things.
Now, I don't mean the moderator here, but, like, RJ, does that, like, when you hear this, like, the amount of stuff that happens in there, how does that make you feel? Because you're not living
single,
in it.
right?
You're not living in there yet, though, right? Like, what is your process, like, thought process in this whole thing?
I mean, mentally, I'm just taking all these notes in right now. I'm just like, okay, these are things I should do. But
is she your first girlfriend?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Like, she's
Like,
like my
real,
first
real.
real
Real,
serious
yeah.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's kind of what you were talking about. It's just like perfect example for me and Arissa is she loves writing notes, like handwritten notes, and she will even go as far as like mailing them into the post office,
I
and
used
I'll
to do
get
that.
them.
Carol
I
did.
used to do
Carol did
that.
You
that
used to
one.
do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carol did that like one Valentine's Day. I was still living in my old place. This before we were married, and she just for like this was like
Every day.
every day
February
in February
until the 14th.
I got either one or two letters in the mail from
Well,
her.
if you got two, it's because the mailman.
Yeah, well, whatever. But yeah,
Not
Yeah.
because I did that.
yes, yes, but yeah, I did. That was
Yeah.
the weirdest and coolest thing ever.
The last time I did something like that because he's not as romantic, so like my expectations were so high, and then
cough.
and then I got
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So we're
I
in
did
this
get
counseling
stuff.
session right now. Yes.
Right. Yeah, no, but no, seriously though, yeah, she even has it down to where like kind of just like with Carol, just as far as she knows when to send it out to where it could come on a certain day. Yeah, she has it down like
That's
that.
smart.
And so just writing, it could even just be a post-it note that I just have on my desk.
Yes.
Just saying like, hey, thinking of you. And I could like put it in her car. I put it like on her coffee or whatever. It just means the world. And it's just that ROI thing. It's just like, boom, like
Yeah.
just seeing her, just that totally lights up her day.
That's awesome.
You know?
Have you done that like meme that's circulating right now where the girl like pours a cup of milk into like the coffee, and then it says like, hey, this just want you to know whoever sent this to you, and she turns it around. It's like,
yes.
it's like thinks you're the hottest girl ever, or,
Yeah.
or the hottest person ever,
It's
or
a great
whatever.
idea.
So,
Mhm. Oh yeah, I've done that.
Have you done those?
Oh yeah, I'll
those are
send her
cool.
the ones on like because it's on Instagram and TikTok. So I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
send this
so
your way because she likes those too.
I send
you know?
those to Carol, but usually it's like something about her body. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it works.
Carol's like, yeah, it is. It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
I can confirm.
The second week in this series is about connecting in like regular ways, whether it's with date nights or if you live far apart from each other. Like, how do you stay connected even when things are trying to get between you? Start with you guys. Like, so you live far apart.
Yeah.
How do you stay connected with each other?
Yeah, so we are probably on a good day on traffic, I would say like 45, 50 minutes. But a good day of traffic is like Saturday at like 3:30.
Uh-huh.
So besides that, like it's pretty much going to be an hour apart for
Yeah.
sure. So, I mean, we definitely talk every single day. She is an early riser. So one of the things that she wanted to do was she wanted to go to the gym. I am not an early riser. Early for me is like 9. That's probably like a good like early. I'm like,
That's
whoa.
what it used to be for me.
Right,
yes.
right, you know, and I'm like, man, 9 o'clock. This is early. I got a full day right here. But she'll get up at like 7, or even 6, and so we go to the gym. She will drive from Covina to my house.
wow.
We'll go to the gym.
Oh, I thought you were telling me you were like going to the gym at the same time, but like different gyms.
Yeah.
No,
So she's
no.
driving.
FaceTiming each other.
Yeah, yes, I
Yeah.
pictured you guys FaceTiming.
Yeah.
Oh no! She's
Wow,
like,
that's
she wakes up
dedication.
an hour before me.
Yeah.
She'll drive to my house. She'll pick me up. Right. We'll go to the gym and then we come
Sounds
back.
like she's doing all the work.
She is.
It sounds like
I know. I'm getting exposed right now. Everyone's like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Oh, man. Well, I mean,
That's a good catch.
I guess to like not entirely blame you or whatever, but
You
you're
could.
You're
It's
still,
okay.
No, like you're half asleep. You need help. And
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that kind of works, right? That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
it's your support system. That's cool.
It's hilarious because like I'll be in bed still and like my alarm will hit at like 4:45, 4:50, and I'm like, ugh, like do I want to get up and I'll look at her location and I'm like, I see her, she's on like the 57, she's in
Oh,
Pomona,
boy.
and I'm like, I have to get up, I have to go to the gym. So
That's the
yeah.
best accountability I've ever heard.
Truly, it really is.
You're already driving to my house. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting up.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's kind of like our week to week connection. And
Yeah.
then like the weekend, like we'll definitely she's really good at planning and I've become better at planning. So this isn't entirely her. But yeah, like we kind of plan out our months and just like we'll start like the first week of every single month and being like, hey, what do we got going on this month? And we'll intentionally fit in like one-on-one dates. So we have one coming up tomorrow. And we're gonna just go to dinner and do that. That way, because she's busy with family, I'm busy with my family. And so, random things will come up with family. So we're like, okay, on this day, this is what we're doing.
Sitting down
I
and
mean,
looking
you're
at
also
a month.
also a youth pastor, and you got a bunch of kids you got to worry about too. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
You guys are in little kid stage. How do you stay connected to each other in the midst of toddlers, babies, all the things?
here's the crazy thing about that is that I don't think that we were. It was like at a stop for quite a while. but we've now have been more intentional. I mean, at least in the past like 3 to 4 months, we've been more intentional where I think after we came back from New York, that was like our first trip alone.
Wow.
We were gone for about 5 days, and it was fun. It was great to reconnect. It was good to be together. It was like we came to realize like, oh, that these are the things we really love. You know, we try to be more intentional. We try to schedule things, like same thing. You know, we try to schedule things. She knows my calendar. We look at me, because aside from the fact that I'm here at church and we're doing all this stuff, I still do gigs on the side and I still take all this other stuff. But now I'm looking more at my calendar and I'm thinking, okay, I should take this Saturday off. I should take this Friday off.
I heard early on, just it was like when we were in a premarital class, the number of 15 hours got thrown out in that class of like, you need 15 hours within a week of quality time with your person.
It's a lot of time.
It is. It's like basically about 2 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Of like some kind of quality time so that you don't lose each other. So you stay in contact, you know what's going on in each other's lives. And it even allows you to have like different kinds of time together where you are just together and quiet and watching something, or you're having a really like in-depth conversation.
Yeah.
But you need that time together. That and the idea of like, once you say yes and you get married, you are saying this person is my number one priority. Like, I am saying I'm going to try my best to love you how God loves you, and that this relationship is going to be a representation of how much God loves us. That responsibility is the biggest responsibility we take on, even, in my opinion, even above our children, although it's close, but even above our children. And especially, so now that we have older kids, we got surprised with things change, like depending on what season you're in. Little kids was really hard. Medium kids was a joy, and you all just like liked doing stuff together, and it was really nice. And now that we've got high schoolers, they're up really late and they hang out, and they want to hang out at the time we are used to being our date time. So every night, I like put kids to bed 8 o'clock to 10 or 11. Like, this is when we hang out. We can watch a movie. We've got quiet time. We can light a fire. We can do the All About Me book, whatever we want. And now our kids are awake, and that's when they want to be together as a family. And so that was a surprise for us and a challenge of having to go like, okay, so when is our quiet time? Like, when are we just together?
I can see that.
We've been good about having a weekly date for almost our entire marriage. 2020 threw us off there for a couple of years, but we're back. And so every Sunday evening we go on a date, even if it's just for like 2 hours, and we do the like, let's look at this next week and what's coming up. When are we going to be together? When do you have work? When do you have a stressful day so that I can help out? Like, we never think that it's 50-50. It's like 100-100. Like, we're both all in all the time. So if you're going to have a day where you're not okay, like, I want to make sure I'm able to be more available. So we'll just talk through our stress levels and all the things for the week. And that has really helped us a lot. But just also being aware of like, as things change, like, oh, where are we losing our time that we're connecting? All right, how do we make more? And then also looking at a year and saying, when are we getting away totally, just the two of us? And I realize not everyone has that opportunity. We've been lucky enough to live near our parents. And so we were able to ask, like, hey, can you watch our kids for 2 days so we can actually like go be by ourselves and really reconnect and spend more than 2 hours at a time.
Right.
But for us, like, our saying has always been us against the world. Like, we need to take care of the two of us and this thing that is like our marriage relationship, and then expand that to include our kids. But even our kids, they can't get in front of the two of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Not for a long period of time. Obviously, people need things, but
Yeah.
that's been really, really important to us. All right, the next week is about communicating clearly. So I would love to hear, where do you find it difficult to communicate clearly in your relationship? What are the challenges that have come up for you? You guys can go first on this one.
Well, I think communication is always an interesting thing because communication between a woman is dynamically different, I think. I don't know if that makes
Yes.
sense, but
RJ agrees.
Yeah, snaps over here.
There's like this thing, right? Like the unspoken expectations that I think women have versus a guy. Like, no, I need you to be clear with me. and
we've had these conversations
yes,
with you.
yes, you know,
Where I tell you
there's-
what I said, and you're like, "Yeah, I know exactly what you mean," and then he's like, "No."
Yeah, no idea what that meant. Not that this doesn't really happen, I think, but just like an example would be like her saying, "Oh, the trash is full," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's true.
a good example.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, the trash is full. Yeah.
The trash is full, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know, I go about whatever I'm doing, and the issue is between the lines is, can you take out the trash? But I didn't hear that.
When you hear the trash is full, what do you think?
I'm with Steve. I'm like, the trash is full. Yes.
Right.
True statement.
Right.
Yes.
It is
I see
that,
it too.
right? Or for instance, and this is like, and again,
have eyes,
and,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
and like, do you okay? Hey, do you want to move the car from where it's parked right now?
Oh, do you wanna?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
That one we've talked about before.
Right?
Yeah,
There's an
quick.
option there. The option is no. I'm enjoying where I'm at right now. I don't want to go do that right now. Now, if the question were like, "Hey, can you go move the car?" because whatever, I'm like, "Okay, sure, no problem." Right? I have no problem doing something. I have no problem the requests that are asked of me. But I think the smarter thing, and I learned this recently, is I heard somebody once say, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?" Right? And of course,
And
if
he's an
she's-
Enneagram 8,
Yes.
so he's gonna, if he can,
yes,
he will fight me.
yeah,
Like,
I will push back.
correct your words. Yeah.
Yes, but more and more, I'm choosing I want to be happy. That's what I
Happy
meant to
wife,
say. Yeah.
happy life.
No, I say happy spouse, happy house.
That's good. Include everyone.
Yeah. So now I'm more intentional about if I understand the communication is different, right? And it's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if a request is made or if something is said, and it's like, okay, she wants me to do this, and I
Yeah.
try to be like, okay, I know what she's saying, but I do have to process it sometimes because sometimes it's just not clear enough for me. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's
and
true.
even just to have the ability to say, "Are you asking me to take it out?" But like not in a snarky way, but in like a, "Would you like me to take it out?" Like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would love that." Right? That's the way to like lovingly do it versus like, "Did you mean will you take it out?" It's a totally different way of saying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's full. So are you taking it or am I
You
taking
just
it? What are
telling
we
me?
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think it's been a learning curve
Yeah,
in that
for
regard
sure.
for us. Even still, I
Yeah.
think we're still learning how to properly do that because my biggest pushback to that was, well, I'm not your mom. I
Right.
have these kids that I'm mom to. I'm not your mom. I should not be telling you what to do.
Right.
And so he's like, that's not being my mom. And I'm like, yes, that feels like I'm being your mom. And so I went to therapy specifically because Steve drives me nuts. And just kidding. And-
This feels like therapy session for a fact, just so y'all know.
Start laying down, just like,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me how you feel.
no, and I mentioned this to the therapist, and she's like, unfortunately, this is how men's brains work. And it might be easier for you to create like a chore list. And she's like, that's just how men work. And she's like, I know it feels like to you that you're being a mom, but you're not. That's not how he's perceiving you.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the question, like, can you help me with this or can you do that? Versus like right now, what I'm thinking is I'm working on this. In my head, I'm actually doing something. So I'm trying to get my things done. And I don't realize, or maybe I do realize, but I'm thinking this is priority. But then again, she's frustrated because I haven't taken out the laundry from the dryer.
Or the wet clothes, because then it starts smelling.
Yeah, or move the
Yeah.
wrap close to the dryer, right? But in my head, I'm not there yet. Like I'm doing what I'm doing. So asking or communicating the simple thing like, hey, can you help me with the dryer? Can you help move that? It's like, oh sure, okay, cool. Okay, cool. That's not babying me, in my opinion. It's just asking for help that I'm willing to do. Like that's not a problem. But more and more, and I think I've been way more intentional in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think what was frustrating even for me though was feeling like, oh, now I'm house manager.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
is that my
Yeah.
okay? That's my role. Okay.
Yeah. And I actually said that, it's like it's not that you're not micromanaging or you don't have to manage.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that it's a reminder, right? I was single for such a long time. I lived alone for such a long time. you create some weird habits, you create some weird ways of living, that when you're finally with someone, you you have to change that. You have to rethink that. So, I mean, and I'm not. I mean, this whole year has started a whole bunch of changes in my life, and that was one of them where I just kind of felt like, okay, well, all right, I need to do more things around the house. And I've been more intentional where it's like, if I see that she's struggling with some stuff, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to just go move it. I'm going to go do that stuff. I'm going to get the laundry. I'm going to do this. But that was funny, right?
And I think culturally, sorry to interrupt, because it happened just a few days ago.
Right.
Someone came over. We were hosting someone from the Crossing in Español at her house, and so of course when that happens, we're a team. We know, okay, we need to get these things done because people are going to come over tonight. We're going to cook and we're going to make some food for them. And as soon as the wife walks in, she sees him vacuuming, because of course we have kids, so there's crumbs, and he grabs the vacuum and starts vacuuming, and she's like, "Oh wow, you're helping with the chores."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Of course, he's helping with the chores."
Yeah.
Because this is not just on me, and that's a very
Right.
cultural thing.
Yeah.
To expect the woman to do all of it, and then still prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, you know, in hearing her kind of express how she was feeling, what I came to realize is like, okay, that's cool, but work with me. And I had to say, can we not have this here, not this here?
Right.
Let's readjust.
Better systems.
Yeah, like I need a better system, because my process is one thing that same. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the guys here will know what I'm talking about. That our tools, our things, they're always in the same place. Even if there's a clutter, we know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
We know where that cord was laid down. We know exactly everything. We know exactly where it is. Even if it's a mess, we know where it is. However, I'll give the example that Carol does. Carol used to have a diaper caddy in like 20 different spots of the house because
Different caddies.
Yeah, different caddies. Not 20, but I'm exaggerating, obviously. But she had caddies or diaper caddies all around the house, because at any given point she's like, well, if the baby just pooped here, I'm gonna change him here, or if he pooped in this room, I'm gonna change him in his room. It was everywhere. So kind of those things were like, I needed to just be in one spot, and it just makes me feel like I know where I need to go do that. And it's kind of a weird thing, but when we started doing, when I started being more like, okay, I'm gonna step up. Can you just work with me too, though? Like, can we readjust some of the things the way they're working? And she's like, okay, cool. So the communication.
Right. I think communication really does come down to each of us are living separate lives, and where we hit problems with communication is where we think the other one is supposed to understand our perspective. And the more generosity we can have with explaining our perspective and not having our identity attached to any individual request or moment of like, if you didn't already know what I wanted, you don't love me. Or if you didn't already understand this part of it, then you don't really know me. Right. And like holding it with some confidence. I think that's why we tried to start out this series with like letting God know you and really putting your identity in the fact that God loves you and knows you and understands you. And then whatever's happening with your person, that is a gift and a responsibility. It is not your only source of love and your only source of being known. So then you can have a conversation about chores or about time or how long you're going to stay somewhere or something that hurts your feelings. And it's not like, oh no, I hurt your feelings and now everything is ruined. Like my husband and I are in the Alpha Marriage course that we're doing right now at the Crossing. And so there's been weeks where it's like, what is something that I've done that has hurt you that you feel like maybe we've talked about a little, but we haven't totally talked about at length. And he was so kindly just letting me know that I'm not great at when I have done something that has upset him or hurt him. I like receive it and then I like go far, far away inside myself and I don't say anything. And then I'm just, because I'm devastated that I've hurt him. But he doesn't know, like you were saying, like Carol doesn't know what's in your head. He doesn't know what's in my head. And so I've been practicing like faster, like let him know I'm devastated that I hurt you. Can I have a couple minutes to feel some sadness about that? And then I'm going to come back around and saying like, okay, here's my plan. Like I can't do exactly what you want right this second. I can't take out the trash right this second, but here's when I'm gonna take out the trash. Or, okay, I feel so much sadness, but this isn't about me. So hold on, give me 2 minutes to be sad in myself about how I hurt your feelings or how I did something that upset you. And then I will come back and apologize and make this right.
Yeah.
Like, and just being able to communicate what's going on inside of you without blaming the other person or having expectations on what they're supposed to do, that has helped us so much because we are so different. For you guys, what are some of the first, like, as you're running up against walls or miscommunications, what's that been like?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in a family where kind of what you were talking about, Steve, like you just internalize everything,
Mhm.
right? Like you internalize everything, you problem solve by yourself, and you're basically like an alpha wolf. And I think just being single for as long as I was single for, like just only perpetuated that and just made that stronger.
Yeah.
And so with Arissa, you know, she is very much like, I want to help, I want to support, I want to care for you. And it wasn't like anything malicious or I felt like she couldn't do it or anything like that. But I was just, my mentality was like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And so what we are breaking down for me is just this idea that like, no, it's like, it's me and her, right? It's not so much like, okay, I'm going to do everything, you know? And it's like, even for her too, where it's like on like her side of things where it's like, hey, like, I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. And she's like, no, like we can do this together, right? Like this isn't just the RJ show where RJ has to put everything on his back and support this. It's like, no, like I want to do this too. So it's like I shared, it's a work in progress because like there's still moments where I'm like, oh, like boom, I got to do A, B, C, D, and she's like, no, like how can I help you? How can I jump in? And then it's like, you know, even for her, it's very much like, hey, like I can do this too. I appreciate your help, but I could do this too. You know, like I've been doing ministry for like 12 years, and you know, during those 12 years, I've been kind of doing it on my own, right? Just
Yeah.
kind of going rogue in a sense, and just like realizing just her involvement into it, like kind of what you were sharing earlier. I'm very much an organized chaos, right? Like I know where like, so my bed's not made in my room right now, but I know that my remote is on the blanket that's falling off of my bed on the left-hand side, you know? And I know it's right there and it's like flipped a certain way and all that. But, you know, just her incorporation to the ministry of just like organizing it, just fine tuning certain things. And cause I'm a big believer and I tell all my volunteers this is that like, hey, I only have two eyes, right? I'm only one person. And so I'm like now telling myself that, especially with Arissa. And it's been like some of the most fun that I ever had in my ministerial run of just like having her involved with it. Like she's going to the all-nighter. She's been coming on Wednesdays, coming on Sundays a lot more. So yeah, it's been great.
That's
So-
really cool. So the Gottman Institute, they have researched relationships for like decades, and they're where a lot of our research came from for the resource that we've got for this and also just for the content of our sermons. And one of the things they talk about a lot is sharing power, that the relationships where men and women are able to share power, partners are able to share power, it then makes it so much healthier and you have such a higher chance of staying together versus if like one person is in charge and never shares like what the hard things are in their life, never lets someone else carry some of it or take someone else's perspective in as possibly something they hadn't seen before. So even just practicing that in ministry and then also practicing that in your relationship is so good.
Yeah, I think with that, you have to respect the other person.
Yes.
Because I've been in situations where you know, we say we want to share the power in the relationship, but then there's like hints of, well, but I don't really respect what you're saying, or your point of view is not I don't believe it, whatever. And I think with that's what's helpful, that we do respect each other's opinion.
Yeah, just to be clear, that's not me.
No. And, yeah, now it's Steve.
Just to be clear.
I'm saying in our relationship, we've seen that, like, yeah, there's times where Carol will be in the light and Steve is a great supporter in that. And he's not going to take offense or be offended or be mad later, or I'm not going to hear something like weird about how I was the one stealing all the,
Can I talk?
yeah. Or vice versa, right? And I think the respect aspect is what's helpful. We respect each other's opinions. We respect how we think, and like sometimes I like do have to force myself to shut up so I could hear him, because I'm like, wow, he's actually very smart, And he
Wow.
doesn't realize it. Yeah.
Actually,
Actually,
No way.
Actually, I need to shut up more because he's smart. No, but yeah, to see him like even flourish in this new season being a pastor, I haven't seen that before in you because you weren't a pastor for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's respecting each other. I think about if you ever did like Myers-Briggs or like personality tests and where it like puts you on like a thinking or a feeling. My husband couldn't be more thinking and I couldn't be more feeling. Like earlier I was just thinking I said that I hurt Jared's feelings. That's not actually a thing that happens. Like I might cause him some pain,
Yeah.
but he's not experiencing the world at all like I would hurt my feelings. That's my language. And to have respect for how that person experiences the world and shows when they feel pain or shows when they feel love. And then same for to have respect for someone who shows emotion and has emotion, that emotion isn't less than intellect and intellect isn't less aware than emotion. Like to have full respect and admiration for the way each other experiences the world and that you can learn from the differences even more than you can learn from what you have in common. Like that is the key to communication for sure, which is actually our last topic. The last week is about cultivating admiration and cultivating like affection and admiration and fondness for each other over the years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For you as you're like just starting to like, oh, I'm really in love with you. What are the things that made you fall in love? And how do you think you might like keep them going as time goes on? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think with her, I think this is to answer the question. She is very intentional with everybody, right? Like she will like find whatever they like, right? And will deliver it to them. And so like, for instance, like I did not know my mom had like a certain favorite flower, right? And it was like my mom's birthday and she like got them delivered on my mom's birthday and it was like that color and it was like the same arrangement and all that because I'm new to the flower game. And so she got it and like found out that my mom likes a certain author, so she got this book signed.
Do you know what the flower is now?
It's a white flower. Yeah.
It's a white flower. My mom likes a white flower.
White flower.
What about
yes.
the author?
Yeah, the color. Oh, Christine Kane. She does like Christine
okay.
Kane. Yeah, so she got like Christine Kane. She met her at like this conference thing, got her to sign this book, gave it to my mom and all that. And I was like, wow.
Intentional giving.
Very intentional,
Yeah.
right? And it's like she doesn't like, I mean, because obviously it could be easy just to get like the big gift, you know, of like something that's like thousands or hundreds of dollars, but she knows how to like do that really well. And so for me, I've realized kind of what I was sharing earlier is she equally likes that, you know? And so it could be, like I said, just something as small as just writing a note. It could be playing that game of the app, right? It could just be randomly sending a text message to her like at 2:00, like, hey, thinking of you, hoping your day is going well. Like she likes intentionality and just those small things. And for her, like, not for her, but for me, like, it's not that big of a deal. You know, like if she doesn't text me, like, that's fine. You know, it's going to be, it'll be my day and all that. But I know for her, keeping those things like as part of my rhythm now of just like sending that because of just who she is and what she likes, it means the world to her.
And
so
not taking for granted that she does those things.
Exactly.
Like what'll be easy is like
Yes.
a couple of years from now, you won't thank her for those notes anymore because that's just what she does.
Right.
Or like you won't go out of your way to be like, that was amazing what you did for my mom, because she's done it for 3 years straight.
Yes.
It's like keeping it fresh in your head and not taking it for granted, the things that are awesome about this person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the recap for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely
of
is
like,
a big thing
okay,
for her too.
Remember how awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What about you guys? So you're like 4 or 5 years in now. How do you make sure that even when like you're both really tired and you're both overworked and you both have little kids, like that you keep seeing the person that's sitting in front of you that's awesome?
It's intentionality. It becomes intentionality. I mean, I tell Carol, like she amazes me all the time. I mean, we were just having a conversation. I think it was Monday. I don't remember exactly when.
It was Saturday. It was
Saturday.
right before service, yeah.
Saturday.
We were prepping for the service.
I don't remember what it was, but
Carol knows exactly when it was because it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Because he cried. And he doesn't always cry.
but yeah, there's these there's these moments of where you realize you value somebody so much, and you value the specific things that they do and what they have to say. And even with her, like, um she's much better than I am about like going to a spiritual counselor or some type of therapist. Yeah, not that I probably don't need one. I probably do. I don't know. But I've never felt like the need. Um, but she learned so much from it that she's great at speaking into people, and she also will also say things to me, and I'm like, what the? How did she process that? How did she come up with that? And I had to tell her, like, I love sometimes how you do those things. You say these things, and you're just smart about it. And I don't necessarily do it all the time, but I try to do it, and enough to where, like, I need her to know, like, I love you, despite us having arguments, despite us having those moments where it feels like what's gonna happen or whatever. Like, no, I love you. Like, I genuinely love you. I think and I think it's necessary. You always have to do that. From the beginning, I remember this one time. Can I share when basically all your friends were kind of like falling apart?
I
and
was
whatnot?
just thinking about that
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
yeah. There was this time when Carol was just losing a ton of friends, or who she thought were friends, but basically I saw them as like very unhealthy people. But I was like, okay, well, these are the group of people that
That
she's
was
with.
that
That
was
was
who my
it.
friend group was.
And they were just kind of like all falling apart, and she takes things to heart, like. So I've always, well, knowing that from then till even now, I'm very quick to apologize, and I'm very quick to admit, okay, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, because I know how she takes things to heart. So, but in this one specific moment, she and I could, to me, I guess this is how I saw her processing things, which is a word that I never knew until I met her. Like, I'm processing this. I'm like, what does that mean? Like just do it. Like, I don't know what that means. But um, she was losing all these people who she thought were important, but and then one day we got into an argument,
Yeah.
and she lost it. Like, she just was bawling, and I had no idea why. And she says, "Are we gonna break up now?
Are you gonna leave
Are you
too?
are you gonna leave too?" Something
Yeah.
like that. And I was just like, "Whoa!" Like, that came from like some left field that I'm not, like, where did that come from?
My brain never went there.
Yeah, like it didn't go there. But we do that as men sometimes. Like, we hurt our spouse, not intentional, but we never stop loving them. Or you should never
Yeah,
stop loving
But the
them.
fact that you said it, and I think you've said it since, like, you can't get rid of me. You've said that to me, and I know that sounds silly, and
Yeah.
you were trying to like lighten the mood, but I'm like, okay, that was something I could like rest and secure of this relationship because I can't get rid of him. Like, that was a type of love I never knew. I never understood that type of love. Like, only my parents did that, right? So I didn't understand an unconditional love other than my parents and God. Like, and I know people don't even have that sometimes, right? So, like, to me, it was like a new learning curve for sure. In that, I think what's helped too. You mentioned spiritual direction, but I think having your individual person
Yeah.
not get lost.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, having community, having friends, not losing your friend group. Obviously, I lost my friend group, but it wasn't because of you. It was because God was like, no, those are not your friends. These are your friends. And so, like, not losing those people that God's placed in your life, and being intentional with like finding yourself. I think recently, we've been trying to do things separate. So we live together, we work together, and we're like always together. It feels like sometimes. And although it's not, but it feels like, right? And so I think we've been intentional, like, to go to the gym separately. You take the kids in the morning and I go pick them up. And so we're spending time apart to like not lose who we are so that we can, and you said it earlier, Nicole, we can bring our 100% when we're like in our relationship together, and that's helped with valuing each other. I think
Yeah.
that's helped us a lot.
Yeah, there's a therapist, her name's Esther Perel, and she talks a lot about like the way you keep romance going is you need both that tension of being together and having distance. That romance pops up in the space between you. And yes, we want to be one in God, and we want to like love each other unconditionally, but there also you need that little bit of space like what is it, absence makes the heart grow fonder, like there is a
Yeah.
little bit of that you do need in order to see yourself and see that other person with fresh eyes. Like, oh man, I really do love you. You're really amazing. And even just saying it out loud to each other is so important. Before we started filming, I was telling everybody, like, I've spent a good amount of time with people recently who are either ending really significant relationships or staying in relationships, but they are miserable right now. And one of the first things, like one of the major red flags, is that you stop admiring the person that you're with. That when you hit a moment where you don't admire them, you might have a minute where you're like, why? But otherwise, you're like, if a week has gone by and you feel yourself disgruntled about the other person, like to get that in check right away. Because that is those are the weeds that start to grow and you just don't think as highly of them anymore. And then as soon as that happens, and sometimes people call it like your love bank account will go down too, of like you're in debt in this relationship now. And then everything that person does is annoying. It's not enough. It's never enough. And so it is both an appreciation of who they are and noticing the good things in your relationship and keeping an eye out for when that like shadow of it's not as good or you're bugging me or whatever it is. If that lasts more than a week, after 23 years, I can tell you, like there are weeks that I am sure my husband has been so annoyed with me. I have so many flaws. And then when you live together, you can't hide. Like, marriage is such a wonderful mirror of your character flaws, and you have a choice on how you're going to handle that. Right. Like, are you going to try to numb it or fight to protect so that nobody can see you? Or are you going to actually be honest about your flaws? If we can be honest about our flaws, then we can keep like growing admiration because you love each other. So then when you see like, when he points out something to me that I have done wrong and then I can get better, that like there's no sweeter thing than that. Or vice versa. When I mention something to him that I'm having trouble with and then he adjusts, oh my gosh. Like the level of gratitude that you can have and that sense of like love going deeper when you're forgiven. Like, because we try to hide all our stuff, but when we like, I try. And then when like a crack gets noticed and then Jared actually loves even that part of me, it's like, oh, whoa. It's like the love like soaked into like a deeper level of like, thank you. As we close out, is there just one thing that either you took away from this conversation or a piece of advice that you have for people who want to just stay in a relationship, a good one, where they like, I was doing a ton of research and just seeing like how much better your physical health is, how much better your mental health is when you have one person. It doesn't have to be romantic, but when you have one person who really knows you and you really know and love them. When you were talking, Steve, I was thinking about how close like being seen by someone is to being loved. Like that makes a huge difference. So for you guys, like what's one piece, one thing you would just like last thought?
Yeah, and I think too this could be applicable because I was even thinking about like, prior to meeting Arissa as well. So like that single like phase of my life. I think like as you guys were talking, it was just this idea of like knowing your worth and then knowing the other person's worth.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, for me, it just kind of I'll go back being single, right? Like just the amount of like random dates that I went on, the people that I was dating for months or weeks or whatever. Like I felt like I was kind of forcing myself right into relationships just because I had friends and all that were getting married, having kids, right? And I'm like, I got to do this too, And so, and at times it was compromising both to myself or to the other person. And so, I think that's like the know your worth and all that kind of really applies right there. But then on the flip side, right, it's like knowing your worth on like when to communicate, like how you're feeling, right? When to communicate like, hey, this is important for me. Like I need me time. I need, to hang out with you. I want to take you to this place and all that. And then knowing the other person's worth as well, where it's like, hey, like, as much as this is important to me, this is equally important to you, and these things are important to you too. And so, yeah, like know your worth and knowing the other your partner's worth. So
That's so good. Agreed.
Cool.
Snaps to that one too.
thanks.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Like, there's just so much that you kind of have to be ready to adapt. Like, there's gonna be change. There's gonna be things that are gonna be uncomfortable, but it's worth it. And I think one of the biggest thing, and you kind of mentioned it right now, being like you're worth to be loved. Like, you're worth being loved. And I don't think like our culture teaches that, because we're taught more to like, how do you adjust to other people, right? Like, rather than like, no, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of being loved. And when you live in that, you can like be or present the best version of yourself to someone else. Yeah, I think you're worth being loved. You're worth being with someone that actually loves you, and even like your weirdest parts of you, like they'll help you.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot that can be said as far as like things that you can do, but I definitely I love the concept or the idea of like you have you're both independent, you both are your own people, but there also needs to be like this balance of like the we, right? Like, I love that, us against the world, and there is I mean, it sounds kind of evil, but
I love that you hear every phrase I say as like the evil turn on it.
yeah.
It's diabolical. Yes.
But for sure there needs to be this constant like, I want to know you. Like, I want to know what you're wanting to do. I want to encourage you in what you're doing. I want to be able to feel like you're encouraging me in what I'm doing. It is a weird thing, right? Like, but humans need that. Like, we need that whether it's in, what are the love languages? It's words affirmation, physical touch,
Quality
Gifts.
time.
quality time,
Yeah.
Acts of service.
acts of service,
yeah.
I
right?
think we got him.
Yeah, I think it's four.
Sounds like all
Four?
five.
Yeah,
Five.
five. I don't know. But I hate to like go on a tangent here really quick, but I once dated a girl who was like, I need you to read this book, and at that point in my life, I hated books. I wasn't something I did, and she took such offense to that, and I remember thinking to myself like,
Was it the Bible?
no, it was it was a love language book. Whatever his name is, Carl. Is it Carl?
Gary Chapman, I
Gary
think.
Chapman. I don't know who it was, but yeah. So it was. and
That's
it-
funny because I did give books to you as well
Yeah.
when we started dating.
Yeah, yeah. And to me, I was like, I valued that though, right? But it also was because
It's
of
a different season of your
yeah,
life.
it was who it was and what it was for, and I think we need to be okay with like change. And Carol, we had this kind of like a argument recently where
This morning,
this morning too, right? But we had
you just learned how to fight together.
Yeah.
Like,
right, yeah. But the funny thing is that she said something. I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened, but she said like, I don't want to have to tell you some of these things, and I said no. Like, I want you to tell me these things, because if I don't know these things, then how am I going to grow? How am I going to change? I need to learn the things that I'm doing wrong in order for me to change the things that I'm doing wrong that affect you, right? But I think those are the things that need to be admired and need to be accepted, and as long as you're right, it's how you say it. Even if it's in the heat of the thing of the moment, you still need to kind of take a step back and always realize that I'm not fighting against you. I'm fighting with you to try to make this better.
Right.
The problem isn't you and me. The problem is the problem. So let's find a solution to the problem. But as guys, we might think we know the solution to the problem because that's what we like doing. We fix, we do those things. But Carol might need to process it. She might need to look at it from a different standpoint, or she might be, or
Yeah.
or she's too emotional right now to think what I would think rational or logical, that I have to remind myself, all right, let it calm down, let it mellow out, and take steps back. But I
Yeah.
think it, again, I feel like it falls down to intentionality. It always falls down to intentionality, where if you want to be able to grow in any of the love languages that you feel you might be needing, I thought for me it was affection. It's not. It's definitely not. It's words of affirmation, and it's from her specifically. I mean, people might tell me anything, but the moment Carol like tells me something specifically, I'm
yeah,
like,
and it's specific. It's not like, oh, great job.
Right.
It's like, great job on this and why. Like,
yeah, but because I value her so much, and I think that's where we as couples, we need to constantly look at what is it that we value so much about the other, my person, that I want to put more effort into like letting her know, like, and it's not just the small things, but it's being very expressive as much as you can. And I'm not an expressive person at all by any means. You ask me, if you like something, yeah,
Yeah. What?
yeah. I mean, I was. Oh, you want like a full on,
You want more than that?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Why?
But
Yeah.
but you learn. You
Yeah.
try. You keep doing the things. I love Carol so much because she's kind of like Alyssa. We're Arissa. Sorry. Where
Poor
I know.
Arissa. Every time.
I don't know. Sorry.
She's gonna watch this and be like,
I know.
wow.
She's like,
She's
oh,
like,
wow.
Sarissa.
I don't like
yeah,
that guy.
I don't like that guy.
What
Yeah.
is his name?
Who's the pastor? I speak Spanish. Sorry, that's probably right. I don't know. Carol is, she's a great, she does goods. What is it like? She's a good gift giver. Is that? I think that's the word that
You
I'm
do
thinking.
goods.
Yeah, no, she just is always really good at giving gifts, and she's very intentional about how she does gifts. My gifts have always been really cool, and then her gifts are more like I feel terrible because I'm not nearly as good.
Like, one time he said that he wanted, someday in his life, he wants to be able to have enough socks to not have to wash socks.
Yeah.
So I bought him a ton of
She
socks
bought me
one
a
year.
ton of socks. Yes, it was a ton of socks, which is really cool. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I mean, who would have thought, right? That would make a difference. Yeah.
It's just finding the thing, the like
sounds
thing
so
that has
awesome,
such
not
a
gonna lie.
good return. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just that. It's finding the one thing, but like paying attention and
Yeah.
trying and
Right.
always looking for the things. I mean, she once had Katz's Deli from New York shipped to our house for Valentine's Day. I'm like, what? It's probably my favorite pastrami in the world. But yeah, those kind of things where she's just really good at it, and she doesn't only do that with me. Like, I see that when she does that with other people, where she's intentional, even with time, how she puts her time into people, and it's like this thing where she like is connected to like God or something that just kind of tells her this is what they want or this is what he wants, and I'm like, how do you know this? Like, it's just
You
a crazy.
listen. You listen to people.
There you
Well,
go.
and that's
It's
the
hard.
thing. It's
What'd
like
you just
it's
say?
listening
What'd you
and
just say?
really seeing, really being intentional to like really see the person. And what you said is what I was going to say when you're talking about like whatever the problem is, it's not between you.
Yeah.
Like that is us against the world is basically that. It's like even if I was to do something horrible or Jared was to do something horrible, we would both be like, okay, all right, so the problem isn't between us. We are a team. How do we address this thing?
Yeah.
Every time something comes up. And just to be able to be kind and curious and present through all of life. Like that you never let yourself step outside of kindness and intentionality and you just stay in it with the person. And just hearing you talk about Carol, I'll tell this final story. I was hanging out with a bunch of guys because lots of pastors are guys, and so we were at somebody's house and they were smoking cigars. I don't smoke cigars, but one of the guys had cigars from Cuba. And he was like, let me show you a documentary that I shot about where we got these cigars from. So now we're sitting or watching a documentary about cigars. The way the people in this video talked about cigars, the level of detail, how each thing was like rolled together, how many hours it took to like get it together, all the different things about it. You might have heard people talk about cars this way too, of like all the details about the car. When we left that person's house and I was just with like the guys that I knew, I was like, hey, so heads up, if you were to talk about your wife the way that guy just talked about cigars, she would love you for the rest of her life. If you could be that detailed and specific and like you paid that much attention to who she is and what makes her tick and all the things that made her who she is, like she will love you forever. Being seen and known feels like love. And you express it differently depending on the person, whether someone is a woman or man or how you interact with them. Like it's going to look different, but it's still being known. It's still really being seen.
Right. Yeah.
That's why words of affection matter so much. Or like, okay, you really see me. And so we hope that this conversation was a gift to you, whether we're telling ridiculous stories or trying to give advice or just talking about God is in our relationships, whether they're with our best friend, whether they're with someone that we are married to, whether we're dating, like first dates, strangers, or whether we're dating someone for a year. It's like RJ said, it's knowing your worth and knowing their worth as children of God.
Right.
Infinitely interesting and infinitely precious. And if you just mutually let people know, like, you're my person. So if you're getting married, obvious, you're my person. But you might also have a best friend who you need to let know, like, you're my person. And I want to make sure you feel seen and known and loved for as long as we're alive. Like, that doesn't have to be only, like you guys were talking about with community and having your own things. Like, just because you're in a romantic relationship doesn't mean that should be the only relationship you have. And just because you're not in a romantic relationship doesn't mean you don't have the potential to have this good a relationship with someone who is your friend. So this Treasure Map series, we've got 2 more weeks of it. And we've got a resource for you. Go to thecrossing.com and just scroll on down, and there's a link there. Or in the description, we'll have a link to the resource. It is created to help you create love maps, to help you have good conversations, to get to know your person, to work through conflicts, and to see where you might have blind spots. Thank you so much for being with us today. The Crossing is here for you all the time online. And then we've got on-campus services at 9:15 and 11:15 on Sunday mornings, 11:15 for TCE here on campus as well, which is en español.
The Crossing en español.
See what Steve said. And thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you soon.
Here I am, and humbled by your majesty, and covered by your grace so free. And here I am, and knowing I'm a sinful man, and covered by the blood of the Lamb. And now I've found the greatest love of all is mine, since you laid down your life, the greatest sacrifice. And majesty, and majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed but alive in your hands. And here I am, humbled by the love that you give, forgiven so that I can forgive. And here I stand, and knowing that I'm your desire, sanctified by glory and fire. And now I've found the greatest love of all is mine. Since you laid down your life, the greatest sacrifice. And majesty, and majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed.